welcome you this afternoon to our noonday service. We are streaming live now via Facebook as well as YouTube. We thank God for your presence, and we hope that you're attending with us today. Will be a blessing as much as it is for a blessing it is to me to have you share with us today. Amen. Amen. Let us look to the Lord. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time of fellowship. We thank you for this time of reminder of who you are to us. Father, we thank you that you allow us to come to this, your house, and to give your name praise. Father, to give you honor and glory for all that you've done for us. Father, giving us the ability to worship even virtually, God. That God, you are powerful, that you are mighty. Father, you are deserving of every praise. God, every praise belongs to you. Father, we pray today that you would come into this place, that your Holy Spirit would have his divine way, that he would speak to our hearts. Father, that he would fill this place with your presence. God, we ask that you would move amongst us today. Father, bless all those who are watching and even those who will begin to tune in right now in Jesus' name. Father, I pray that you would speak to their hearts, that you would encourage them today with the word. Father, that you would do only what you can do. Father, that you would meet them in the place where they are. God, you know their needs. You know what they stand in need for. Father, you know what they've been asking for. You know what some burdens are upon their heart. And Father, we're grateful today that we can take those burdens and we can cast those things on you because you care for us. Father, that you will make our load lighter. God, we thank you for the wonderful things you're doing, even during this troubling time. How you continue to protect us, how you continue to watch over us, how you continue to make ways for us. God, how you continue to have your hand upon us. God, we thank you that we've not experienced any lack during this time, but you've always made ways out of the way for us, and you've always come through. Oh God, we ask that you would continue to be who you are, that you continue to be our great shepherd. Father, we'll be careful to give you all honor, glory, and praise, which you will certainly most do. Have your way in our lives always, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen, amen, amen. We thank God for you being here with us again this afternoon, for sharing with us on the noonday service. We're here every Wednesdays at 12 o'clock via live stream Facebook as well as our YouTube channel for our noonday service. We're super glad again that you've decided to join us. We thank you for those who have just jumped on and those that will decide to join us for our services today. We thank God for just his keeping power and how he's kept us during this time. Even though the church building might be closed, we are grateful that ministry is still open and ongoing. So even during this time of separation where we can't be together physically, we thank God that God's kingdom is still progressing and it's still moving forward, and we give God praise and thanks for that. Amen. Amen. We'll do this little song real quick. It simply says, I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today, because you cared for me in such a special way. That's why I praise you, I lift you up, and I magnify your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise. Come on, y'all can help me out at home. Simply says, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today, because you care for me in such a special way. That's why I praise you, I lift you up, and I magnify your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise. Next verse simply says, my heart, my mind, my soul belongs to you. You paid the price for me way back on Calvary. That's why I praise you, I lift you up, and I magnify your name. certainly love him because he cares so much for us and he loved us first. And we give God honor, glory, and praise that he is most due. We magnify him today because he's blessed us tremendously. Amen. We want to remind you that we want to hear from you. We want to stay connected no matter what's going on. We want to hear from you. We want you to leave your comments. We want you to leave your prayer requests and your praise reports. We want you to type them in your comment section. We want to also remind you that our prayer ministry are interceding always on our behalf. They have asked that if you have a prayer request or you just want to be lifted up to God in prayer during this time, that you would call the church office and please give your name and your prayer request to Miss Julie, and they will be lifting us up in prayer even right now. We thank God for them. Also, we want to remind you that Wednesdays at 7 p.m., our Pastor Reverend Collins A.D. Sr. does our general Bible study, and he looks forward to seeing us and communing with us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for our general Bible study. We are a blessed family to be able to connect with you via the internet and to still be able to do the work that God has called all of us to do. And we certainly thank you for your support during this time. And we send you lots of love and virtual hugs even now. Amen? Amen. Now, there was a word from the Lord, and we will try and do what we need to do. We won't be before you long, but we just want to encourage you in the process of what's going on. Amen? Amen. Let's look to the Lord. Gracious God, our Father and Creator, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time to come to this your house and to lift up your name. Father, we pray in Jesus' name that you would dwell among us. God, that you would speak to us, that you would encourage us, that you would convict us. Father, that you would put us right back on track. Father, that no matter what's going on, we will be reminded that you are with us, that you will never leave us nor forsake us, that God, you are faithful, that even when we can't see you moving, even when we can't see you making ways for us, Father, that you're already doing it, that you already have a great plan for our lives. And so now, God, we thank you for those things. Father, we pray in Jesus' name today that you would have your way, that you would speak to our hearts, Lord. Father, that you would encourage us. Father, hide me behind your cross. Let your people hear a word from you. Let them be encouraged. Father, we need you to preach today. We need you to speak. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. To God be the glory, to him be all the praise, for he is worthy of nothing less. And then your best praise to my father in ministry, Reverend Collins A.D. Sr., to all of those who co-labor with me during this branch of ministry, Minister Bronte Walker, the Reverend Richard Andrews. We thank God for them, who is always faithful, always here with me, always have my back. And we thank God for all of you, my brothers and sisters in Christ who have joined us today, who have graced us with your wonderful presence to hear what it is that the Lord has to say to all of us on today. Amen. There is a word from the Lord, and we will get right to it. You will find us in a very familiar story. I just want to pull out a few things from the story to encourage us and remind us of who we are to God and what he thinks about us. And during these last couple of weeks, we have been dealing with the series Crisis Management. And so I want to continue on with that and muse around that a little bit. Amen. You'll find us in Daniel chapter 3. And I want to look at verses 19 and 20. Daniel chapter 3. And we want to look at verses 19 and 20. I don't think you can do a series about crisis management without at least looking at one of the most interesting crises in the Bible. Daniel chapter 3, verse 19, it reads, "Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake in command that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded that the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Amen. I want to read you the topic for just a little while, if you allow me to. You are not alone. You are not alone. My brothers and sisters, I find it interesting that there are times where we can be around tons of people that we know, tons of people who are not strangers to us. We can be around family and friends. We can be around people we've known forever, yet still feel like we are all alone. I would submit to you today that the worst feeling in the world that one can experience is feeling that they are all alone, that they have no one to talk to, that there is no one that understands them, that there is no one who has their back, that they don't know who to turn to or who to go to, that they may feel embarrassed to talk to anyone at all. They feel alone. Beloved, I find that even during this time of the pandemic, that we have been forced to quarantine, we have been forced to stay 6 feet away from people, we have been forced to stay away from those we love the most, that some of us are feeling some feelings of being alone by ourselves. That we are feeling like that we have no one, that anxiety and depression has fallen upon us. That we feel like we have no one who has our back. Today in our text, I can't help but wonder if at some point Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego felt all alone. That they felt like they were out there by themselves. That they felt like no one had their back. But beloved, the reality of the story is that they were not alone. That even though they might have felt like they were by themselves and no one was there with them, that God did not make his presence felt. The reality is that they were not alone. Here it is in our text. In our text at this time, in the biblical text, King Nebuchadnezzar was king. He was ruler over Babylon, and he gave an order that an image of gold be made, and those that serve in his kingdom should worship it. Then the Bible tells us that the image was 80 cubits high, that the golden image was 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, and placed in plain view where everyone could see it in the city. The order was given that at the sound of the instruments playing, everyone is to worship the golden image. Everyone worshiped the image except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refused to follow the rest of the world and not worship this little g God made of a golden image that had no power, that wasn't Jehovah God that sits high and looks low. They refused to worship the golden image. I can imagine that during this time, they were feeling kind of alone. They were feeling that they were by themselves. They were feeling that they had no one who had their back. Here it is. They are sticking their neck out for God, and it does not look like God is paying attention to what's going on in their life. The story goes on to say that word got back to the king that they refused to do it, and he ordered they be brought before him. The text tells us the king gave them another shot to worship the image, and that still refused to serve no other God but Jehovah God, the one and true living God. This made the king upset. This made the king livid. This made the king mad, and out of his anger ordered they be thrown into the fiery furnace. I can't help but wonder what was going going on in the minds of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that while they were going through this time, they were being persecuted. They were being dealt with in a way that seemed like no one loved them, that seemed like no one wanted to deal with them. They were going through a time of criticism. They were going through a time of intimidation. They were going through a time of hatred and temptation, that trials were overcoming their life, all because they would not worship this golden image, that the one that they served was the true and living God, Jehovah, who knows all about you, knows about your struggle, knows what's going on in your life, and they refused to worship the golden image, which caused them to go through some things, caused them to go through some persecutions, caused them to be persecuted, ostracized, and demoralized. But yet, in spite of that, they refused to worship the golden image. Beloved, I want to submit to you today, if you live a life unto God, that while you are living your life, that you are going to go through some things. But I know there's some people that can testify, even watching at home right now, that my suffering right now, I will reign with him also. That no cross, no crown. They were thrown into the fiery furnace for their disobedience to the earthly king. They were thrown in the fiery furnace for their disobedience to Nebuchadnezzar. The text tells us that when they were thrown into the furnace, that they were bound with their clothes, and the furnace was turned up 7 times its normal capacity. The fire was so hot, it burnt up the men that the king ordered to throw them in. My beloved, when we think of fire, we think of a burning mass that destroys everything in its path. It consumes and destroys everything it touches, creating a wasteland. But I'd like to submit to you today that while they were in the fire, that while they were going through this situation, that while the king's anger had overtaken them, that in spite of what was going on, in spite of their hardship, that God still preserved them in the midst of the fire. And I want to encourage you today that it may seem like you're going through a rough situation. It may seem like you're going through a rough patch during this pandemic. It may seem like you don't know how your bills are going to get paid. You may seem like you don't know if you're going to have your job. You may seem like if you don't know what's going to happen next. But I want to encourage you today that our great God Jehovah, who sits high and looks low, is beginning to preserve you. That in spite of what's going on, that our great God is preserving you even right now. That even while you don't know when your next meal is coming from, God is still feeding you. That even though you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, somehow your bills are still being paid. That in spite of everything that's going on, God is still making ways for you out of nowhere. That God is still preserving, that God is still keeping, that God is still saving, that God is still protecting and securing you even from this pandemic and the disease of COVID-19. Look how God is still preserving you inside of this crazy situation, inside what looks like a furnace. And here's the interesting thing about our story today, is that while they were in the furnace, while God was making ways for them, while God was providing for them, the story goes on to say that while they were in the furnace, that their shackles were burnt off, that the chains were burnt off, that
the people that throw them in were burnt up. And they were walking around in the furnace. They were walking around what looked like their tumultuous situation. They were walking around giving God praise. And the king looks into the furnace. And he says, wait a minute. I know that we only put in 3 people. I remember that there were only Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who went in the fiery furnace for their disobedience and not worshiping the golden image. I know that I saw 3 people go in to this fiery furnace. But yet, somehow, I see 4 people. And the text goes on to say that the king says the form of the 4th looks like the Son of God. And I want to encourage you today that the things that you are going through, that the things that you are experiencing right now, I want you to understand today that you are not alone. That God is right there with you. That God is there with you in your situation, preserving you. That God is right there in your situation, making ways for you. That God is right there in your situation, protecting you. That God is right there in your situation, making sure that you are all right. And I know I read this text, and I like what's going on, because God did not just snap his fingers and just make everything go away. No, instead, he decided to get in the furnace with them and provide for them provisions and protection for them. And so that's what I want to encourage you on today, is that no matter what's going on, God may not snap his fingers and make all this go away. God may not snap his fingers and ensure that everything stops happening. God may not just snap his fingers and say this is the end of the pandemic. But I want you to understand today that in spite of what's going on, God is still going to protect you, that he's still going to make ways for you, that he's still going to make sure your bills are paid, that he's still going to make sure you have food on your table, that he's still going to make sure you got a little money in your pocket, that our great God is going to assure that you are not alone. Our great God is going to ensure that you are not alone. How wonderful it is that our great God, Jehovah, that even during this time in biblical history, and these 3 boys got thrown into a giant oven with fire turned up 7 times its normal capacity. And in spite of knowing what was going to happen, they still refused to worship the king's image. And they knew what was going to happen. And they never doubted once that God would make a way for them, that God would save them. And it says in the text that even if he didn't, we are still going to praise him. We're still going to serve him, because we know that God has a plan. And that's my encouragement for you today, that no matter what's going on right now, no matter what your very current situation might be, no matter what you are experiencing very currently right now, that our great God, Jehovah, is able to preserve you. And he's able to keep you in the midst of what's going on. That our great God is going to show forth his power mightily in protecting us. I think that's the most amazing story in the Bible. How God said nothing, but he moved. And he moved in a way where they realized that our great God, that Jehovah, is our keeper. That Jesus is our keeper. That Jesus is our provider.
He's the one that can help us and preserve us during this time. That's my encouragement for all of us on today. That we should look unto Jesus. That we should look unto the hills from where it's coming for our help. And we realize that our help comes from the Lord. That He's able to keep us and maintain us even during this time. In Jesus' name. Let us pray. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for this time of fellowship. We thank you for this time of encouragement. Father, we pray that we are reminded today that you have been keeping us. Father, that you continue to keep us. That you continue to preserve us. Father, that there is nowhere we can be where your hand cannot reach us. Father, there's nowhere we can go where your love can't follow us. Father, there's nothing we can go through that is too big for you. God, we thank you that your name is above every name. Father, that your name is above every sickness. That your name is above every disease. Father, that your name is above every problem we might be facing. Father, and so today, even right now in our individual homes, we lift up your name. Father, for your name is great, for your name is powerful, for your name is mighty. Father, we lift up the name of Jesus today, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Father, that we will be kept, Father, because you are keeping us. That you will continue to open doors for us. That you will not leave us where we are, but you will remind us that we are victorious, that we are winners. Father, that you're going to preserve us through this situation, through this time, like only you can. Father, we thank you that you're keeping us, even right now. That your hand continues to be upon us. Father, we pray in Jesus' name that you will continue to have your way in our lives. That you would speak to us. That you would encourage us. Lord, be with us. Father, we pray a special blessing over every family that's represented, Father. Every frontline worker that's doing what you have called them to do. Every frontline worker that's putting their life on the line every day. Father, we pray that you would continue to protect them, that you would cover them in your blood. Father, even those who have experienced COVID-19, or have been associated with someone who have experienced COVID-19, we pray, Father, your blessing upon their lives. Father, that you continue to heal their body, that you, oh God, in totality can heal them. Father, have your way. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen, amen. We thank you for joining us today. We pray that this time of encouragement, this time of the word has encouraged you where you are, to let you know that whatever you're going through, whatever you might be experiencing, that you are indeed not alone, that there is a God that sits high and looks low, who is over the earth, who made it his business to make sure that you don't feel alone, that you have someone with you in the Son of his Jesus, in the name of his Son Jesus. And we thank you for joining us today. We pray that you would join us next week for our noonday service at 12 p.m. We're going to be live streaming on Facebook as well as our YouTube page. And we pray that God will continue to keep you during this time until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen.